This is Akashvani. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on 113th episode of Prime Minister's Mann Ki Baat program. The participants are Ashok Tandon, political analyst, and Vaibhav Srivastav, anchor.
Once again, on the last Sunday of the month, it was time for the broadcast of Mann Ki Baat, the monthly program through which our Honourable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi connects with the citizens and the people of the country and the entire world. To know more about the program and its impact, we have with us senior political and strategic analyst Shri Ashok Tandonji. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So this was the 113th episode of Mann Ki Baat. The Honourable Prime Minister started by wishing the whole nation a very happy National Space Day and then went on to talk about the various startups which are cropping up at every nook and corner of the country, especially in the space sector. What do you have to say about that?
The PM, as usual, he said, today again I will be touching upon the accomplishments of the country and the collective efforts of the countrymen, because a lot is happening in Bharat of the 21st century, and that's the strengthening of the foundation of a developed Bharat. This is how he began, and that is why he came to the space program, and he said on 23rd of August, the countrymen celebrated the first National Space Day. Because as we all know, we are celebrating this because the success of Chandrayaan-3. Last year on this very day, Chandrayaan-3 had made a successful landing on the southern part of the moon at the Shiva Shakti point. And India became the first nation of the world to achieve this pride-filled accomplishment. And in that context, he surprised the countrymen when he talked to a startup by former IITians from Madras. The startup is Galaxy Eye. And he talked to all of them and tried to understand from them what exactly these young boys and minds have been doing. And he spoke to all of them. And then this was a very interesting interaction, dialogue with our youngsters who are doing wonders in the space sector. And then he was listening to all of them. And at the end of that, he said that this technology of ours now can take us to forward. And in this, we are basically the echo of the essence of the Jai Jawan as well as Jai Kisan, because this young minds told the Prime Minister that the basic purpose of this entire exercise was to have our defense secured as well as our agriculture having a better thing. So this dialogue was, I think, the main hallmark of today's Mann Ki Baat.
So the youngsters from the startup Galaxy Eye, Praneeth, Suyash, Rakshit, Daniel and Kishan, they all emphasized on one very important thing, that the policy makeover which has happened from the point of view of the government and which has enabled the youth of the nation in not just the sector of starting up their innovation journey but also helping the country. How important has this been from policy perspective and from the perspective of the companies which are giving in more fundings to these startups, in turn helping the various sectors, be it agriculture, be it defense, be it security, be it innovations in IT and AI, to the Indian people and the whole nation?
See, the underlying message of the Prime Minister was that it is not only for the government institutions or the government bodies or the scientific institutions to do innovation and research. It is for the private sector and the youngsters to launch their own startups and do the needful, and that is exactly what this particular team of youngsters was doing. But another very significant point which the Prime Minister mentioned was that he said that from the ramparts of the Red Fort, he had urged 1 lakh youth who are not from a political background to connect with the political system. Now, this is something very unique. Since independence, no Prime Minister has reached to the people who have no background of political, because generally in politics, the perception is that there is Parivarvad in every party. So now, when he appealed to the people, it has got a tremendous response. And we has come to know that a large number of our youth are eagerly ready to enter politics. And all they need is a right opportunity and proper guidance. So he has received letters from youth across the country on this subject. So this response shows that the youth of this country They want to contribute to the politics of this country, but unfortunately they don't get opportunity. And this was a very significant thing, I think, which the Prime Minister mentioned today. And this is, as I said, is the first time. Because now our collective effort should be that youth who do not possess a political background will also be able to come forward in politics, and their experience and their fervor will prove useful for the country. This is something very important.
So the Prime Minister, the true leader that he is, was talking about inclusion and how people can come together and contribute to the development of our great nation. So the Prime Minister also talked about the campaigns of Har Ghar Tiranga, Pura Desh Tiranga. He talked about the Tiranga which was atop the Chenab railway bridge, and the fact that lakhs of women, especially in the underprivileged areas and through the help of self-help groups, were making these Tirangas, which were also available on e-commerce platforms. How do you think this is important from a point of view of rural employment opportunities, and also for the fact that we feel truly that India has arrived and we are proud in our nation, and the fact that the Tiranga is fluttering everywhere in high winds shows our great aspirations?
Certainly, but the most fascinating part of Har Ghar Tiranga was when we saw visuals in different parts of the country on the desktops, mobiles, vehicles, colleges, universities, Tiranga fluttering at schools. But most fascinating was when we saw Tiranga on the Riyasi in Jammu and Kashmir, that the railway bridge, which is a unique feature, and it was a sea of humanity carrying Tiranga and crossing that bridge. Similarly, many other places were also shown. A 750-meter long Tiranga was organized. This rally was taken out of the Chenab railway bridge, as I said, the tallest in the world. Then another example was we saw the captivating pictures of Tiranga Yatra on the Dal Lake in Srinagar. The Yatra with a 600 feet long Tiranga was carried out in East Temang district of Arunachal Pradesh. So similarly, we saw the visual, and that was very fascinating. Now it has become a mass movement. Even Independence Day celebration is turning into a social festival. That is something which is unique. This Prime Minister has initiated, and now people are connecting themselves, as you said, with the self-help groups, craft lakhs of flags, and that is generating employment in the rural areas.
The Honourable Prime Minister also talked about a very special bond which was between animals and humans. He talked about the Tinsukia area in Assam, where Hulok gibbons, through the campaign of Holo Bandar, are being provided food by the people who are there. And also he talked about Nabam Bapu and Likha Nana from Arunachal Pradesh for the 3D printing of animal parts, which will help in the conservation, preservation and efforts through which these animals are provided shelter, food, and through which the ecological balance is maintained. How important are these things in today's world, especially when we talk about the environmental balance?
No, first of all, let me say that practically every episode of Mann Ki Baat, the Prime Minister invariably mentions development in the northeastern region, their culture, their heritage, and connects with them, particularly people in the rural areas, in the tribal belt. It was in that context that he mentioned this village in the Tinsukia district of Assam. These villagers, how they treat these Holo Bandar, as we all know in common parlance. And these people, they share a deep bond with these Holo Bandar, as the common parlance we talk about it. And they do everything. They decided that they would perform rituals connected with the birth and death of the gibbon, exactly as they would have been performing about their near and dear. So this was very, in a way, sentimental thing. And the villagers put forth the problems of the government, and a quick solution was found out. And now he has been told that these gibbons also pose for pictures. It's fascinating. Similarly, about Arunachal Pradesh, love for animals. Young friends from Arunachal Pradesh, now what they are doing is they are starting using a 3D printing technology because they want to protect wild animals from being hunted for their horns and tusks. So under the leadership of, as you also mentioned, Nabam Bapu and Likha Nana, this team undertakes 3D printing of various parts of animals, be it horn or teeth. All of these are crafted through 3D printing, and they are then made into items such as an apparel and headgear. This is an amazing alternative which makes use of biodegradable material. No, Northeast is mentioned, the natural life is mentioned, and also their traditions are mentioned, and all sorts of things in the Northeast, they are rejected by the Prime Minister for the rest of the country.
Sir, talking about ecological balance, and as you rightly mentioned that the Honorable Prime Minister always touches upon the topic of conservation of environment and ecological balance and conservation of all species truly contributing to Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. The Honorable Prime Minister also talked about Jhabua in Madhya Pradesh, where there was a mention of waste to wealth in terms of environment protection by recycling, reusing the plastic products. And how do you see this initiative as being promoted by the Prime Minister for the betterment of the earth and for the betterment of the environment?
It's a very interesting thing to note that the people of Jhabua, not only that they are making wealth out of the waste, they are in a park. This team has crafted wonderful artwork out of garbage. Now, for instance, they have collected plastic waste, used bottles, tires and pipes from the neighborhood and included in this artwork not only common things but helicopters, cars, cannons, benches, hanging flower pots. They are all part of this. And this team is not any educated people. This team is of sanitation workers who have adhered to the mantra of reduce, reuse and recycle. Now, owing to their effort, the park has started appearing remarkably beautiful. And apart from the local residents, even people living in neighborhood districts are also reaching out to see the park. That is really waste to wealth example which the people of Jhabua set.
And so a very humane effort which the Honorable Prime Minister talked about was giving up of used toys or toy recycling for the underprivileged or those children who haven't been fortunate enough to play with these toys. How important are these little things and how far along do they go in not just giving a humane touch to those who have been underprivileged, but also the fact that we can promote social harmony through such efforts?
Incidentally, toys have always figured Prime Minister's Mann Ki Baat episodes, and he has been appealing the people that the toys which are not being used by the children, they can donate these toys to people who are working on it, and it will certainly strengthen the environment and taking the country forward if we promote this kind of toy recycling initiatives taken by some very enterprising. So toys have always figured very prominently, and it's a part of India's life. Toys go with the children, and if the unused toys are donated to self-help groups who are trying to recycle it and improving the environment, I think that's also a very interesting thing.
So the Prime Minister also touched upon the fact that Fit India is a campaign that we all should be focusing on, and he mentioned the superfood of Shri Ann, like he has always been talking about millets and how they can solve the problem of food scarcity in the whole world. What would you say about that?
Yes, of course, and we also saw some visuals of how food is being prepared and served in different parts of the country. But let's not forget one very important thing. The World Sanskrit Day, which the Prime Minister mentioned, and it is now being celebrated globally. A special inclination towards Sanskrit can be observed within the country and equally the world over. And in fact, we also saw visuals that in many countries of the world, a variety of research and experimentation is being carried out in the realm of the Sanskrit language. He showed us the audio clip also, how people are appreciating Sanskrit and trying to learn about it. So I thought we should not miss out on the Sanskrit Day and also the Raksha Bandhan which the country celebrated on the 19th of August. And one thing I must mention that the Prime Minister never forgets to remind the countrymen about the coming festivals between the two Mann Ki Baat episodes. And this time again he mentioned those festivals and also sent his greetings to the people, different religion, different parts of the country. So these are certain things which touch the heart of the people across the country, and that is why Mann Ki Baat is becoming popular day by day.
Thank you so much for giving us your precious time to Akashvani and talking about the 113th episode of the monthly program of Mann Ki Baat. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
You were listening to a discussion on 113th episode of Prime Minister's Mann Ki Baat program. The participants were Ashok Tandon, political analyst, and Vaibhav Srivastav, anchor. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani.